I've been awake since 4:30 a.m. You know that kind of quiet where you can hear the house breathing? That's where I was, standing in the middle of our living room in Seattle with a manual balloon pump and 40 silver mylar balloons. Chloe was turning 10. Double digits. The big 10 for a 10-year-old. This isn't just a birthday. It's a promotion. It's the gateway to being a big kid. She'd been counting down the days since last summer, literally had a calendar on the fridge with every day crossed out in pink Sharpie. I'm a 35-year-old man. And there I was, sweating over Scotch tape that refused to stick to the ceiling. By 6 a.m., the living room looked like a silver cloud had crashed into it. Half of them were already sagging toward the floor, but I didn't care. I just wanted her to wake up to magic. I wanted her to feel like she was the center of the universe, because, for the last 10 years, that's exactly what she's been to me. I started the pancakes, the ones with the extra chocolate chips she likes, and the smell must have drifted down the hall. Suddenly, I hear it. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of a 10-year-old human blur running at full speed. She burst into the kitchen, hair looking like a bird's nest, pajamas inside out, screaming at the top of her lungs. Dad, I'm 10. I'm officially a decade old. She hit me with a hug so hard I almost flipped the spatula into the sink. In that moment, seeing her eyes light up at those stupid, sagging balloons, I felt like I'd won at life. But in the back of my mind, there was this nagging little voice. I looked at the 6 chairs around our dining table. I'd set them all. I'd helped her place the napkins. I kept telling myself, this is the year, David. This is the year your parents finally drive the 3 hours to see her. This is the year your sister Sarah stops making excuses about her kid's soccer practice and actually shows up for her niece. I wanted to believe it so badly. I needed her to be loved by them as much as she was loved by me. I looked at my phone sitting on the counter. It was silent. No happy birthday texts, no we're on our way calls. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my daughter's laughter. I told myself they were probably just sleeping in. They'd call by noon. They had to, right? By 11 a.m., the kitchen looked like a glitter bomb had gone off. Chloe hadn't just sat around waiting for people to show up. She had spent the entire morning preparing for them. She sat at the kitchen island with a stack of cardstock and her glitter pens, tongue poking out the side of her mouth in total concentration. She was making place cards. I watched her write Grandma and Grandpa in that shaky, beautiful 10-year-old cursive. She even taped toothpicks to the back of each card so they would stand up straight on the plates. She was so proud of them. She lined up the chairs, smoothed out the tablecloth, and adjusted the forks 3 different times. She was building a stage for a performance she was certain they wouldn't miss. Every time a car drove down our street, her head would whip toward the window. Is that them? She'd ask, her voice jumping an octave. Not yet. Kiddo, I'd say, trying to keep my voice steady while my chest felt like it was being tightened in a vice. Around noon, we were sitting on the floor together, and she was showing me her latest project party hats she'd made out of construction paper and way too much glue. She'd made one for everyone. One for my sister Sarah, one for my brother Mike. She even made a tiny one for Sarah's toddler. She held up the one she'd made for my dad. It had Grandpa written in gold glitter. Do you think they'll get here before we cut the cake, Dad? I don't want the candles to melt too much before they see them. How do you answer that? How do you tell a girl who still believes in the magic of family that the people she's literally building a throne for haven't even sent a text? I'm sure they're just running behind, Claw. I lied. I hate lying to her. But seeing her stand there, holding a glittery paper hat, looking at those 5 empty chairs like they were just a few minutes away from being filled, it was wrecking me. I looked at the table. The place cards were standing tall on the empty plates. Grandma, Grandpa, Aunt Sarah. They looked like little gravestones for a relationship I was starting to realize was already dead. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. My family group chat was as quiet as a tomb, even though I knew they were all active. I'd posted a video of Chloe riding her new bike that morning, the one gift I'd managed to get her. They'd all seen it. The seen by icons were right there at the bottom of the screen. They were watching her grow up through a screen, and they couldn't even bother to type happy birthday. But at that point, I had no idea it was actually much worse than just forgetting. By 2 p.m., the silence in the house was deafening. Chloe had finally drifted outside to draw on the driveway with sidewalk chalk writing happy birthday to me in giant, colorful letters so the whole neighborhood could see. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the 5 empty chairs and those little handmade place cards. I pulled out my phone, thinking maybe there was a network error. Maybe my service was out. I opened Instagram, just out of habit, just to see if the world was still turning, and that's when the floor dropped out from under me. The first thing I saw was a boomerang on my sister Sarah's story. It was a close-up of a frosted margarita rim with a palm tree in the background. The caption read, "Vacay mode on." My heart started to thud. I tapped to the next slide. It was a group photo. There they were. My mom, my dad, Sarah, her husband, their kids, even our Aunt Martha. They were all standing in front of a massive, sun-drenched mural that said, "Welcome to Scottsdale." Everyone was wearing sunglasses, matching custom t-shirts that said Family Trip 2026, and holding ice creams. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was there. I scrolled further. Sarah had posted a photo of a massive seafood spread, lobster tails, oysters, the works. The caption was the kicker. "Finally got the whole crew together. It's been too long. Family is everything." I sat there in my quiet kitchen in Seattle, staring at my screen until it dimmed to black. They weren't busy. They weren't running late. They had planned a full-scale, multi-generational flight to Arizona on the exact weekend of their only granddaughter's 10th birthday. They didn't just forget. They chose to be somewhere else. They chose a margarita in Scottsdale over a glitter-covered party hat in my kitchen. I looked out the window at Chloe. She was crouched on the concrete, carefully coloring in a yellow sun next to her name. She had no idea that while she was saving a seat for Grandpa, Grandpa was currently tanning 1,500 miles away. I felt this hot, prickly heat crawl up my neck. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was a cold, hard clarity. My family, the people I had been financially carrying for years, didn't just overlook us. They had actively excluded us from a trip that my own money probably helped subsidize. I didn't leave a sappy comment. I didn't call them crying. I just typed 5 words under Sarah's photo. "So you all left town." Then I put the phone face down on the counter, walked outside, and picked up a piece of blue chalk. Because if I didn't distract myself right then, I was going to lose it. I waited. I didn't want to ruin the rest of Chloe's afternoon, so I kept the phone in my pocket while we ate cake, just the two of us. We sang Happy Birthday loud enough for the neighbors to hear, but every time I looked at those empty chairs, I felt a physical ache in my chest. Finally, about an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was the family group chat. My dad had finally replied to my comment. No apology. No "oh shoot, we forgot." Just a blunt, cold sentence that felt like a slap. "We didn't feel like babysitting a problem child on our only week off, David." I stared at the words until they blurred. A problem child. That's how they saw her. To them, Chloe isn't a bright, curious 10-year-old who happens to have ADHD and a brain that moves at 100 miles an hour. She isn't the girl who can tell you every fact about the James Webb Telescope or who makes handmade hats for people who don't deserve them. To them. She was just difficult. She was too much. She didn't sit perfectly still and silent like my sister Sarah's kids, who honestly look like they're bored out of their minds half the time. Because Chloe asks a million questions. Because she gets excited and talks loudly about the things she loves. They labeled her a problem. My sister Sarah jumped in next. "Don't be dramatic, Dave. You know how stressful it is when she gets worked up. We just wanted a relaxing trip without the, the extra baggage." Extra baggage. My daughter. My life. The resentment I'd been suppressed for years finally boiled over. See, they loved my money. They loved the extra $1,500 I sent every month to keep my parents in that house and keep my dad's medical bills paid. They loved the sponsor David. But they hated the father David. Because being a grandfather to Chloe required effort. It required patience. It required actually caring about someone other than themselves. I realized then that they didn't just miss the birthday. They planned this trip specifically to escape her. They used the money I earned to fly to a resort to get away from my problem child. I looked over at Chloe, putting her new telescope together, her face twisted in deep concentration. She was perfect. She was brilliant. And she was currently being mocked by the people who were supposed to be her village. I felt a coldness wash over me. The kind of coldness that makes you very, very calm. I started typing. My thumbs didn't even shake. Understood. I wrote back. "It sounds like you guys are really enjoying that relaxation. I'd hate to add any more stress to your lives." Then I sent the follow-up that changed everything. "Perfect. Because your retirement fund just lost its sponsor. Enjoy the lobster." I didn't wait for a reply. I muted the chat, blocked their numbers for the night. and went to help my daughter find the North Star. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter than I had in years. It's funny how a little bit of truth can clear the air. I sat at my desk with my coffee and opened my banking app. For 5 years, 60 straight months, I had an automatic transfer set up. $1,500 every single month. In Seattle. That's a decent chunk of change. That's a mortgage payment, a college fund, a dream vacation. But I'd been sending it to my parents. My MOM always had a story. The property taxes went up again. Dad's knee surgery isn't fully covered. The roof has a leak we can't afford to fix. I felt like the good son. I thought I was the glue holding the family together. But as I looked at that scheduled transfer icon, I realized I wasn't the glue. I was the ATM. They didn't see me as a brother or a son. They saw me as a subscription service that they didn't even have to be polite to. I hit cancel. Then I went into the settings and deleted the recurring payment entirely. The reaction was almost instantaneous. Within an hour, my sister Sarah, the one who was just sipping margaritas in Scottsdale, sent a string of laughing emojis to the group chat. "Oh, here we go," she wrote. "Dave's having another tantrum. He thinks he's going to punish MOM and Dad because we didn't come to a 10-year-old's birthday party." So dramatic. Then my dad chimed in. "Don't worry about it, Sarah. He'll cool off by Monday. He knows we can't make ends meet without that check. He's just trying to feel powerful." That was the moment I realized they weren't even scared. They were so entitled, so convinced of my guilt and my duty, that they thought I was bluffing. They actually laughed at me. They thought I'd crawl back, apologize for being sensitive, and hit send on that money just to keep the peace. My MOM sent a private text. "David, honey, don't be like this. We just needed a break. It was a once-in-a-lifetime deal Sarah found. We'll make it up to Chloe later. Just send the money so I don't have to worry about the pharmacy bill, okay?" No apology for the empty chairs. No mention of the handmade hats. Just send the money, okay? I didn't reply. I didn't argue. I just watched as the group chat continued to mock me. They were posting photos of their last night in Scottsdale dinner, expensive steaks and vintage wine. I looked at the transfer cancelled notification on my screen. I realized that for the last 5 years, I had been paying people to disrespect my daughter. I had been subsidizing the very people who called my child extra baggage. The sponsor didn't just lose his interest. He closed the bank, and as I watched them laugh at it online, I knew they had no idea that the ground was already crumbling beneath them. For 9 days, I lived in a different world. I muted the notifications. I focused on work. I took Chloe to get bubblegum ice cream on a random Tuesday, and I actually slept. I didn't realize how much space they were taking up in my head until I evicted them. But while my house was quiet, their world was starting to catch fire. The Monday my dad talked about came and went. No deposit. Then Tuesday passed. By Friday, the day the mortgage was due and the pharmacy bills hit the account, the dismissive laughter died a very sudden death. I woke up on day 9 to 22 missed calls, and a flood of messages that looked like a psychological thriller. The tone had shifted from "Dave's having a tantrum" to "David, please pick up the phone." My dad started it. "David, we're serious now. The rent is late. Call me immediately." Then, 2 hours later, "Are you really going to let your mother go without her medication over a birthday party? This is cruel." Then my MOM jumped in. Her messages were longer, filled with that classic weaponized guilt. "We didn't mean it like that, honey. You have to understand, we were stressed. The trip was booked months ago. We didn't want to tell you because we knew you'd get sensitive. Please, the fridge is empty. We can't live like this. Not one, I'm sorry. Not one, how is Chloe?" Just a list of things they needed from my wallet. Then came my sister Sarah. She was the most aggressive. "You're being incredibly cold, David. Our parents are old. You're putting the whole family in a crisis just to make a point. It's pathetic." I sat at my kitchen table, drinking my coffee, and read every single one of them. In the past, I would have been shaking. I would have been typing out a 10-paragraph explanation, apologizing for misunderstanding them, and rushing to the bank to fix their lives. But this time, I felt nothing, just a strange, calm clarity. I looked at a photo Chloe had drawn that morning, a picture of us on her new bike. Then I looked at the text from Sarah calling me pathetic for not paying for our parents' house while they vacationed in Scottsdale. I didn't answer. I wasn't playing a game or trying to be alpha. I just realized that I had finally run out of things to give. I had given them my money, my time, and my daughter's heart for a decade, and they had traded it all for a lobster dinner and a laugh at our expense. The storm was raging on my phone screen, buzzing, flashing, pleading, but inside my house it was just me, my coffee, and the silence. And for the first time in my adult life, the silence felt like a victory. That Saturday morning, the air in Seattle felt heavy with the digital noise coming from my phone. My family was still spiraling, but Chloe was just sitting on the floor with a map of the Pacific Northwest, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Dad," she asked, "can we go somewhere? Just us? Somewhere with big trees?" Usually, my answer would have been, "Maybe next month, kiddo," because I'd been mentally calculating the cost of my mom's next specialist appointment or my dad's property taxes. But as I looked at her, I realized I had $1,500 sitting in my account that wasn't spoken for. For the first time in 5 years, that money belonged to us. "Pack a bag, Claw," I said. "We're going to Oregon." I booked a cabin on the spot, a rustic, a frame spot right on the edge of a lake near Mt. Hood. It was expensive, the kind of place I used to look at and think, I wish I could afford that. Turns out, I could always afford it. I was just too busy paying for a lifestyle in Scottsdale I wasn't invited to. The cabin was perfect in all the ways my family isn't. It was worn. It had a squeaky screen door, and the dishes were mismatched. But it felt like a sanctuary. As soon as we arrived, Chloe didn't ask for the Wi-Fi password. She didn't check for her cousin's TikToks. She just ran down to the wooden dock with her sneakers in one hand and her stuffed bear in the other, shouting at the top of her lungs, "This is the best vacation ever." We spent the next 3 days doing everything my family called difficult. We went fishing, and she tangled the line so badly I had to cut it 3 times. Instead of getting frustrated or calling her a problem, we just laughed until our stomachs ached and called it abstract art. We burned marshmallows over an open fire until they were black husks. We stayed up late with her new telescope, looking at the moon, and she asked me if the moon ever gets lonely because it's so far away from the other planets. I sat there on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching her. I realized that this trip, this entire weekend of core memories, cost almost exactly what I used to spend on my mom's prescriptions every single month for years. I'd been told I was choosing to be a good son. But looking at Chloe's face in the firelight, I realized I'd been choosing wrong. I was subsidizing people who barely liked us, while the person who loved me most was waiting for her turn. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Sarah. "Mom is crying. She says the bank called. How can you be so heartless?" I didn't even feel the familiar sting of guilt. I just took a photo of the lake, silent and still under the starlight, and put the phone back in my bag. I wasn't being heartless. I was finally being a father. The peace of the lake was shattered on our final morning. My phone started blowing up with notifications from old high school friends and distant cousins. I knew before I even opened the app that Sarah had gone nuclear. I logged into Facebook, and there it was, shared to the entire Fairview community group. Sarah had posted a high-definition photo of our parents' refrigerator. It was heartbreakingly empty, just a lonely carton of eggs, a half-empty bottle of ketchup, and a jar of pickles. The caption read, "This is what happens when you raise ungrateful children. Our parents gave everything to David, and now that they are old and struggling, he's decided to cut them off to fund his extravagant lifestyle. It's sad when money matters more than blood. Please pray for our MOM and Dad." The comments were a dumpster fire. People I hadn't spoken to in 10 years were calling me a monster and a disgrace. One person wrote, "How do you sleep at night knowing your parents are hungry?" For a second, the old David, the one who lived for their approval, wanted to scream. I wanted to post the receipts. I wanted to upload the bank statements showing the $90,000 I'd sent them over the last 5 years. I wanted to post the screenshots of their Scottsdale vacation photos from literally 1 week ago. I started typing a furious rebuttal. My heart was racing. My vision was tunneling. I was ready for war. But then, I looked up. Chloe was standing by the screen door of the cabin, holding her stuffed bear. She had a smudge of chocolate on her cheek, and she was wearing a mismatched outfit she'd picked out herself. She looked happy. Truly, deeply happy. She wasn't checking Facebook. She didn't care about Sarah's likes or the town's opinion. She only cared that her dad was there, that we were going to skip stones one last time before driving home. I realized that if I engaged with that post, I was giving them exactly what they wanted, my energy. I was letting their toxicity leak into this clean, mountain air. Sarah had used a photo of an empty fridge to hide the truth of their empty hearts. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. I did something much more powerful. I deleted the Facebook app from my phone. I stood up, walked over to Chloe, and wiped the chocolate off her face. Ready to go home, kiddo? I asked. Can we come back next year? She asked. We can come back whenever we want. I promised. As we drove away from the lake, I thought about that fridge. I realized I wasn't the one who emptied it. They had emptied it themselves, one margarita, one lobster tail, and one family trip t-shirt at a time. I hadn't taken food out of their mouths. I had simply stopped letting them take the future out of mine. Let the internet judge me. I had a daughter to raise. I thought the silence meant they had finally accepted the new reality. I thought deleting the apps meant the drama was over. I was wrong. When you stop being a resource to people like them, they don't just walk away, they escalate. It was a Tuesday afternoon, about 3 weeks after the Scottsdale disaster. I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed with a call from Chloe's school. My stomach did a slow roll. That's never a call you want to get, Mr. Miller. The receptionist's voice sounded tense. We have a situation. A woman is here claiming to be Chloe's grandmother. She's insisting on picking Chloe up early for a family emergency. The blood drained from my face. My mother. She had driven 3 hours from her town to Chloe's school in Seattle. Is she on the approved pickup list? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. No, she isn't. And she's becoming quite agitated. She says she has rights and that you're unstable. She even knew Chloe's teacher's name and her locker number. I was out the door before the receptionist could finish her sentence. I drove like a madman, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My mother wasn't there because she missed Chloe. She was there because she was trying to use my daughter as a pawn, a way to force me to the table, a way to reclaim her rights to my life and my wallet. When I walked into the front office, it was a scene. My mother was standing there, looking frail but eyes flashing with that familiar, manipulative fire. As soon as she saw me, she shifted. She started crying. David, I just wanted to see her. You're keeping her from us like a prisoner. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I looked at the school security officer and then at the principal. She is not on the list, I said firmly. She does not have permission to be near my daughter. The principal was amazing. They escorted my mother out while she screamed that I was destroying the family. I sat in the principal's office for an hour after that, filling out paperwork. I had to officially lock down Chloe's records. I had to provide photos of my parents and my sister to the front desk with a clear instruction. Do not allow contact. As I signed my name at the bottom of the restricted access form, a wave of nausea hit me. These were my parents. These were the people who raised me. And here I was, treating them like a security threat. But as I watched Chloe walk out of her classroom a few minutes later, totally unaware of the war happening in the lobby, the guilt vanished. I realized that my family hadn't just crossed a line. They had burned the border. They were willing to scare a 10-year-old child just to get back at me for stopping a bank transfer. I walked Chloe to the car, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had finally exhaled. I wasn't just protecting my money anymore. I was protecting my child's peace. And that is a debt I will never stop paying. A year has passed since the silver balloons sagged in my living room and my world turned upside down. Last week, Chloe turned 11. I woke up at 6 o'clock a.m., just like before, but the atmosphere in the house was different. There was no frantic hoping, no checking the driveway for cars that wouldn't arrive, no heavy weight of expectation sitting on my chest. This year, Chloe didn't make place cards for people who didn't care. She didn't ask if Grandma and Grandpa were coming. Instead, she sat at the kitchen island, drinking her juice, and showed me a detailed itinerary she had written for us. First, the planetarium, she said, tapping her notebook. Then, the arcade. Then, the giant pizza place with the singing robots. Just us, Dad. We spent the day in a bubble of pure joy. We watched a show about the birth of stars, and as we sat in the dark theater, she leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "This has been the best year of my life." I realized she was right. It's been a year of silence from the other side. My parents stopped calling when the legal letters I sent made it clear that I wasn't an ATM or a pushover. Sarah still posts the occasional passive-aggressive quote on Facebook about family loyalty, but I wouldn't know I haven't checked her page in 12 months. People think that cutting a family requires a massive explosion, a dramatic movie moment of certainty. But for me, it was just a quiet realization. I used to think I was the glue holding everyone together. Now I know I was just the one being stepped on to keep their feet out of the mud. When we got home from the planetarium, there were no missed calls, no family emergency group chats, just the two of us and a small, perfect cake. I looked at Chloe as she blew out her candles. She's taller now. She's more confident. She's thriving in a robotics club that I can easily afford because I'm not paying for someone else's beach house. She isn't a problem child anymore. She's just a child who is finally seen, heard, and celebrated. I used to be terrified of the silence. I thought it meant I was alone. But standing in my kitchen, watching my daughter laugh, I finally understood the truth. Silence isn't the absence of family. It's the absence of noise. Family isn't about whose blood is in your veins or whose names are on a birth certificate. Family is about who shows up. It's about who stays when the money runs out. It's about the people who see your high energy as a spark, not a burden. I'm 36 now. I lost a set of parents and a sister this year, but I found my daughter. And more importantly, I finally found myself. And honestly, that was the best birthday gift I ever could have given her. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments.